don't put yourself in danger unless you're stupid.
Hello, time travellers.
Hello, time travellers. Hello. And hello, cowpokes and trail bums.
Yes, because this week we thought one of the most popular places to go for a quick time travel is, of course, the Wild West, because it evokes so much from all those movies. People are always asking us, Mark, Ed, where should I go? What should I see? What should I eat? And, of course, very importantly, from our point of view, how should you get back safe? How don't you die? Ed, what do you think the Wild West is? When is it for you?
Poof, as you know very well, I spend a lot of time in the Wild West. I love it. It's one of my favourite places. But for me, it's a very broad thing. It's from it's Lewis and Clark in the 1810s, wandering across the whole continent and back again, all the way up to sort of 1920s almost. But the real heyday, it's 1850s, second half of the 19th century. If you want to get the real proper, I'm in the Wild West now, it's then. And believe me, it'll be like most of the films you've seen, but nothing like them, which is the fun of it. What about you? When do you take your Wild West from?
I think I'm very much like you, really. The Wild West has to be the other side of the Mississippi to the west, that way. Anything 1840s, 1880s, it all gets very exciting. But you've got to be really careful, because which direction you pick to go in can really affect your life. You see, I wouldn't go too far north, because you can bump into a civil war. I wouldn't go too far south for some of that, because you can bump into a Mexican war. So really, that leaves you, unless you want to go east and get wet again, you've got to go west. So I'm going to head for the Appalachians, work my way across there. There's something that leaves the Appalachian Mountains called the Three Notch Trail. Have you heard of the Three Notch Trail, Ed?
No, it's a bit far north for me, but go on.
Okay, the Three Notch Trail is really easy, because you walk through the wilderness and follow any tree that has three notches carved in it. And that's your way west. It'll take you right through the Appalachians, out into the other side of Kentucky. And that's when I think we're getting west.
So you're looking literally, you're in a sort of mist-covered, forested mountain looking for three notches in a tree.
Yeah, and hoping that the guy that carved them didn't go, oh, where am I now? Oh dear, I'm dead.
And why have you chosen, I'm just a bit curious this week, you've obviously chosen to dress as a 1820s English ploughman, which in some ways is perfectly suitable for the West. We mustn't forget that a lot of the people that go there, and they're from Europe, and there's a lot of people from the East Coast that go west, but there's a lot of Europeans who just go, I'm going to make my fortune in the New World. And so you get German settlements and Dutch settlements. On the West Coast, you get Chinese settlements. Lots of people from all over the world just wandering around dressed as ploughmen, I expect some of them would have been.
Well, this is my very best Wild West shirt, and of course my town hat, having come over from Europe. Now, my big worry, you see, is as I come out the other side of the mountains, I'm wandering along, following this wonderful trail, and what I'm worried about is those. I don't know if you can see that. It's an arrowhead. Now, it might only be made of stone, but if this is behind a stick, which is then attached to a bow, and then a Native American, I'm in a bit of trouble. So I'm hoping that this hat makes them realise I'm a gentleman and you shouldn't fill me full of arrows.
Well, hopefully, yes. I mean, but it's again, if you look a lot, different peoples at different periods, some allies, safety, the Iroquois Confederacy being allies and things like that, or, it's at other times you're not wanted there and you might well get shot at.
I've always sort of picked the safer areas. That's why I stay around the Appalachians. I mean, if you're going to time travel, don't go walk into trouble. Then I suddenly realised that as a happy little Brit, I don't know anything about poison ivy, poison oak, or very importantly, bears. I'd rather not get eaten by a bear.
One of my great heroes, James Adams, James Grizzly Adams. What I love about the West is I go and I specifically try and find some of the real characters, the strange lunatics, and he was one of them. I mean, he was born in the 1820s and he ends up going west. He leaves his family, ends up going west, and after various failed, 1849 he goes west with the gold rush, fails in several enterprises, so he uses his hunting skills that he's developed on the East Coast to catch bears. And he sets up a zoo, a menagerie, and he wrestles bears. And he has a bear called Lady Washington, whose back he rides on and who carries his baggage around. And the bears keep injuring him, but he keeps capturing bears. He catches a bear that's 1,500 pounds. And eventually, after decades of doing this, he decides to go and see his wife and children, gets on a ship, heads all the way around Cape Horn back to the East Coast, because bear in mind, there's no Panama Canal, no Continental Railway Road, and he meets P.T. Barnum and puts shows on for him, but he knows he's dying from his bear-related injuries, and he spends his last few months doing shows with bears for P.T. Barnum, and then has 5 days at home with his wife and his kids, who are now grown up effectively, before he snuffs it. But he's a mountain man. You can go to the West and meet mountain men. But
that's a good idea.
The etiquette is a minefield. You're going to have no skills. You might go fishing. You might occasionally shoot an air rifle in your garden or something like that. You're going to be pretty useless to mountain men. But, I recommend meeting them. They're great fun. Advice for food. How not to get poisoned and what to eat and where.
Well, if you're going to be on this 3-notch trail, then I very much recommend the campfire food of the movies. There is nothing wrong with a mess of baked beans. These are good eating. What they are is white beans in some sort of sauce, not necessarily much tomato in there, just some gravy bits and things. But you can cook them off and bake them away, and especially if you've got an oven, which is not that useful when you're on a wagon, an oven makes a baked bean really, really good. If you're just outside, I'm going to recommend, have you ever heard of a Johnny cake?
No, what's a Johnny cake?
A Johnny cake, or hoe cake, to give it a slightly more contemporary term. Well, they're cornbread pancakes, all fried on a flat piece of metal, which tended to be referred to as a hoe. Unfortunately, if you go and talk to them, they'll tell you that's a hoe. You cook hoe cakes on it. Since people have decided perhaps they were cooked on garden implements, the hoe, they weren't.
I had recently with the Navajo fry bread, which is fantastic. And they served it with a brown sort of meaty gravy and with roast beef. And Navajo fry bread is effectively Yorkshire pudding. They were delighted that me and the fellow travellers wolfed the stuff down and went, oh, delicious, it's Yorkshire pudding. So, yeah, Navajo fry bread is a good recommendation.
Ed, do you recommend being all tooled up for a trip round the West?
Well, what's the point of going if you're not?
It's fair enough.
Well, it's an obvious danger, isn't it? You know, the people that are gunfighters are gunfighters. All of that you see in the movies, it's real. The guards on wagon trains west were armed with revolving pistols, revolving rifles, shotguns. Some of them would be carrying about 10 guns. These are people who do the fighting for you. And you don't want to look like a person that does fighting. Remember, in the Wild West, all those things you get in the cowboy movies, they're all real. You could be an undertaker. You could just be a traveller. You don't put yourself in danger unless you're stupid.
Which is why then...
But have a Bowie knife and get into a fight with a grizzly. Because that's part of the fun. Why not?
I think I'm going to head for the one that no one would think of then. I'm going to go to Deadwood. Lots of people have seen the movies and the TV stuff. But the reason I'm going to Deadwood is after you've waved your pistols about, I've just remembered, Deadwood has a no-guns law. So it's actually one of the safer Wild West towns to go to.
Really? Wow, yeah. But they've got to take it out of your cold, dead hands, of course.
Oh, there is that.
Yes. But, you know, I mean, you only live once, even if it's in the past. So do enjoy your trip.
This is the penis bone of a raccoon. Everyone needs one of these. They're very useful if you've done a bit of moonshining.